Let me welcome you to this edition of Mango Tree Dialogues, a forum in which we discuss the issues of the day, which I'm sure are of importance to you, as they certainly are to me. As you know, in this space, we look at matters relating to, well, issues that are current, uh, international issues, with special reference to the United States and also to the Caribbean diaspora, with special reference, of course, to Jamaica. Today, we would be concentrating on the international arena, and then we will zero in on the United States and look at what is happening there. A lot of interesting things. As you no doubt, you would have had to be on Mars not to know that President Trump has started his second term, and there's a lot that has been happening, and we'll be talking to some of that in a short while. But what I would like to do first is to go to Gaza, go to the Middle East. This is a subject that we have had occasion to come back to time and time again. And I'm very happy today that there seems to be some change, some wind of change that is taking place for the better in that beleaguered part of the Middle East. And I speak specifically of the truce. I see it no deeper than that there is a halt in the fighting that has been worked out between the Netanyahu government in Israel and Hamas, along with Egypt and Jordan and Qatar as important Arab countries aiding in the effort to bring about a ceasefire so that hostages could be released, prisoners, Hamas prisoners that have been taken by Israel could be released, and also that people could return to their homes, or whatever is left of what could be described as their homes, because it is such a devastated land that hardly any building has been left standing there. But nonetheless, gives the people an opportunity to have a sense of relief, and especially for the children themselves, that these heavy bombs that had been raining down on Gaza from October of almost 2 years now, that those bombs will no longer be dropping and causing all kinds of psychological trauma. You know, I really worry about what is going to become of those children with regard to the trauma that they have to be experiencing. You just imagine, you hear a little firecracker go off and you think it might be a gun. Imagine a 2,000-pound bomb being dropped almost daily when the war just started on buildings, hospitals, schools, the people running from one end of the strip to the other and not finding any kind of peace What can that be doing to the minds of the young people, the children, the scars that are being left? You know, from the very beginning, the children have always been my concern because you have a population, more than half of the population of Gaza is made up of children, 18 and under. And and you know that in a real sense, children represent the future. So what future is there going to be for that beleaguered strip of land after all of this is finished? But at least we now have a silencing of the guns, and people can kind of return to some semblance. I wouldn't even say normalcy because there's no normalcy there, but to some semblance of hope that they can rebuild. Those who are alive and who still have family members around them, that they can rebuild. And we hope that the truce will hold, the ceasefire will hold. Ever so often, you'll see the truce being broken, you know, because, but it seems to be holding now. When they just started out, it was being broken. It was a very tenuous situation. But thank God, it's holding, it seems. And I saw the hundreds of people. You look on Al Jazeera television, you just see hundreds of people who are going back, especially to the north, which was the first place that was attacked, and going back with a kind of, and they're laughing, and you know, and I say there can be some kind of psychological thing there, you know, trauma creates all kinds of things in people's minds. But I think that what I saw was a kind of genuine, you know, elation that they could be going back and hoping that they may find something of their homes, or at least to go back to where they were. At least the bombs have stopped and the fighting has stopped. And once that has taken place, there's a renewed hope that things can be better. So we wish them all the very best. And we hope that there is something of a lasting peace. We talk about a lasting peace, but the lasting peace is not going to come that easily. Because in a very real sense, and I said this to some folks just the other day, that the Israelis and the Palestinians, both of them, both sides, can be described as fools. I don't have time this evening to talk about what that fool, the dimensions or the anatomy of that foolishness that has pitted them against each other in a no-win situation. It is foolish to think that, you cannot acknowledge Israel's right to exist because they're not going anywhere, and they have the weapons and the nuclear capability to ensure that if they're going to be uprooted from that place and pushed away, that they can defend themselves if it comes down to the ultimate, decimation of those people. So that is foolish to think. I just want to give an idea what I'm talking about when I say both sides have been fools. But it is also foolish to believe that the Palestinians should not have a homeland, have a place that they can call their own, whether it is autonomous or semi-autonomous, but a place where they can call their own, and where they can maintain their own sense of culture and development as a people. It is foolish to think that they should not have that. And ultimately, it is foolish that two cousins, first cousins, born of the line of Abraham, cannot sit down and recognize each other as human beings and work out their difficulties. There's not going to be any other way. It will never be brought. Peace will never be brought there at the barrel of a gun or the dropping of bombs or any kind of violence. We have seen that played out for many years, ever since Israel became a state in 1948. And wars have been fought and up to the present iteration of conflict in Gaza. And you have not had any peace. As a matter of fact, things seem to have gotten worse. There is no future for the Middle East on the basis of violence. And that is the ultimate foolishness that people think that they can have peace at the barrel of a gun. It is going to work. But that's a subject I'll come back to at some time later on. Not in this broadcast, but later on down the road. So I just wanted to mention that. So let me jump quickly then to the United States. Wow, a lot of things happening. I would like to start off, first of all, by extending condolences insofar as it can reach out, but as one human being to others. To extend condolences from Mango Tree Dialogues to the families of those who perished in yesterday evening's air collision over the Potomac River. Some call it Potomac. Well, but we know what we're talking about. In Washington, as it was making its two aircrafts, an American airline jet and Black Hawk helicopter collided. Boom. And caused the deaths of 67 people. 60 passengers on the jet, 4 crew members, and 3 soldiers who were training in that military helicopter that crashed into the jet. It is a very, very, very sad state of affairs. It is a very horrible way to die. When you saw the image, the little blob of both aircrafts colliding with each other and the big fireball that went up and the fiery death that came to those people. And falling into the icy river. There are parts of the river that had ice, the cold. And even if you survive that first collision and to fall off into that icy cavern of water, it's hard to wrap your mind around that sort of thing. Terror. But it would appear that death was very quick. So the family members are left to mourn them. Many of them were waiting at the airport for their children and their relatives to arrive. And then that happened. The authorities are trying to get to the bottom of it, and we hope that they will find through the black boxes that they have recovered now, I understand, that they can find the reason, or at least come to a reasonable assumption as to what took place, what caused the accident. It was tragic. So my condolences to the families of those who died, and may the souls of all those who perished find their rest. All right. Trump 2.0. I said to my wife the other day, that I would like to take a break from Trump. But if you're a person that is concerned about public commentary like I am and I do, there's no way you're going to escape. Yes, I have stepped back quite a bit. I have lessened, my involvement in terms of a lot of the news cycles, like so many others who perhaps were disappointed about the elections and have taken a back seat, and some have given up altogether on any kind of media. So I don't blame them. People have fatigue, and there is probably a sickness now that you could call Trump fatigue, probably. But somehow you'd think that you'd want to, ignore him. But Trump is not somebody that is easily ignored. He's in your face. And now he's sitting as president in a very, very commanding, and I use that word very strongly, in a very commanding situation. I cannot conceive of any other time in my lifetime, and I've been around the bend, in watching American presidents, reading about American presidents, from Washington right through to Lincoln to FDR and coming into the modern era. One cannot see another president that has commanded the attention as Trump has. And it is not necessarily something complimentary that I'm talking about here, because he has commanded attention because of who he is, the things that he has said, the things that he has done that have rubbed people the wrong way, the impulsivity, some say the narcissism, some say the way in which he has comported himself as a person, as a media personality, because make no doubt about it, that is what Trump is. He's a media personality. And not just because he was on The Apprentice. The Apprentice is part of that media persona that he has had. But you notice that the press itself, the media in America, cannot have enough of him. They promoted him in his first coming, Trump 1.0. As a matter of fact, he got more free advertisements than any other president in the modern era, because of the amount of attention that the press paid to him, and Trump knew exactly how to play the press. And it happened that you thought that they would have learned from their mistake the first time round. But the second time round, he knew exactly how to play them, what to say to them, throw out some red meat, and he knows they're going to run it down. They're going to bring him, they're going to make him be the news, even for a brief moment. And now, as president of the United States again, he's sitting on top of the world of media attention and world attention. And he says the most outrageous things that guarantee that you're going to have to pay attention. And he's just getting started. And he has about 4 more years or so now to push his presence to not just to the American people, but to the world. So that is why I said he's not somebody that you easily ignore, because he has power. And anybody who has the kind of inordinate power that Trump has got to be noticed and critiqued. Because the moment you take your eyes off him or your mind wanders away from what he's doing, that is exactly what can lead to a whole lot of things happening. You have to keep your eyes on him and keep him under constant scrutiny. I'm not saying you're going to have to follow him up and, report every single thing that he does, or to spend inordinate time playing what he's saying, because a lot of what he says sometimes are not worthy of airplay or constant airplay. You can just mention one thing about him. You see, that is where the press has gone wrong, and the press needs to look into itself, because they have done the country, I believe, they have done the country a very great disservice in the extent to which they have promoted Trump and given him this sense, feed his sense of obsession with himself, that you cannot do without him, and that he is the only one who can do things. He is the only one, as he said this evening, who has common sense. Well, he didn't exactly say he's the only one who has common sense, but he said with regard to the reasons that he thought that the crash took place is because of the DEI, the diversity, equity, and inclusion policy of the Democrats, that put people inside there who don't know what they're doing. And that leads him to say that it's common sense. He knows what is best. You see, Trump is one person who thinks by his gut, not his brain. Gut instinct. And if he feels instinct that his instincts are guiding him in a certain direction, that is where he goes. He doesn't need to have any facts to back up what he's saying. He just says anything that his mind, the impulsivity of his mind tells him to say. And we saw that in display in the way he treated so many matters. He did it also for COVID. I mean, I don't know if we can forget, the many times when he, thought that COVID would go away and had his own thinking about it and ignored the science and all that about it. But anyway, so I believe it is a danger to think that you can just simply ignore it, but there's there's a way in which the way in which you put him out there can be managed. And I would urge the media, I would urge platforms like this and other platforms, when you're analyzing him, as you must, you have to keep in an age where truth is no longer in currency, but falsehoods and people's own opinions becoming facts. Those who have dedicated themselves to objectivity and truth, as the media has, at least the mainstream media, having a fierce battle against social media platforms that are spewing all kinds of lies. And the only way in which you're going to help people to distill fact from fiction, truth from falsehood, is to research, get the facts, hold them accountable. That's not going to be easy, but that is what has to be done. Don't spend a great deal of time promoting him, and that's what he wants, and that doesn't make sense. That doesn't help anybody. All right. So he started off his second term. And what a way he has started. Friends, those of you who probably have read my articles in the Jamaica Observer and probably seen some of my writings in my Substack newsletter on substack.com. And I invite you to go there and look at some of what I'm writing there. In the run-up to the election, I did quite a number of articles newsletters on Trump. Understandably, like I said, is that you don't just ignore him. I mean, he's around, he's there, he's in your face. And I said a number of things. What I thought were in tandem with what I call my prophetic insight into what I believe a second Trump term would represent. Short of painting a kind of doomsday scenario, I said that in one of the pieces that I wrote, what day one meant, time of decision, a time when he was going to set forth what his agenda is, and that he was going to behave in such a way that you're going to have that I urge people to buckle up. Because what he was going to be coming with, starting from that first day, were things that were going to be chaotic governance. As a matter of fact, what I have seen so far, I have characterized as a situation of retribution, chaos, and cruelty in the second coming of Trump. As a matter of fact, this presentation, this edition, is entitled that. That's a large issue that I'm tackling here. Retribution, chaos, cruelty in the second coming of Trump. And why do I say that? As I had prophesied, if I may use a term, and I wish that I had been wrong in the insights that I had then, is that the first thing that he would be doing is that he would be signing a great deal of executive orders. As a matter of fact, I've made bold to say that he will be the first president since in living memory who in the first 100 days of his presidency would have signed more executive orders than any other. So check me back after 100 days in office and see, and because the statistics are there of all the other presidents and all the executive orders that they have signed. They're available. And so we can know if what I've said is poppycock. But I firmly believe that that is going to be the case. That in the first 100 days of his presidency, he would have signed more executive orders than any other. And that is that's a no-brainer, really. And he has started off already and shown you what he is capable of when it comes to those. They are considering the number that he has signed since he assumed the office. And why I say that too, friends, is this. The executive order is that thing that speaks more deeply to his impulsive self. That if he wants to have something done, he cannot await the pleasure of legislation being passed and the tedious nature of going through legislations in the Congress to get things done. He's a man in a hurry. He knows he has 2 years. Well, he has a 4 year term, but at best he has 2 years to really get anything done with the Congress that is also fully Republican. And that is why he has started off with this rapid pace. Because they know now they're a year and change. 2 weeks have gone into his presidency. And so they know that from day one, they wouldn't have time to waste if they were going to carry through the agenda, the Project 2025 agenda that they had laid out prior to the elections. And that people, in my view, stupidly ignored and gave their assent to. But that's what they did. Whether they did it, they knew or not, whether they did it wittingly or unwittingly, that's what they did. So my reasoning is that whatever he can do by executive order, he will do, even if it sounds ludicrous, even if it sounds far-fetched, even if it is cruel, like has been happening when they quickly froze all grants and funding for so many government programs that so many poor people, including a lot of MAGA people all over the country, even Medicaid was caught up in it, and they're trying to pretend as if they didn't know that Medicaid was part of all those programs. So when they realized the extent of the suffering and the blowback that they were going to get, they backed off after the White House press secretary, came out with her, talking about the measures that would be applied. And she herself didn't even know probably that Medicaid was part of that. But all these very important programs that help the poor people of this country in the deep rural areas, in their rapid haste to bring about change and to change up the whole structure of government, they froze all of these things. Just freeze them. Doesn't matter. Not considering the implications of their actions. Because as far as they are concerned, the people voted for us and we have a mandate. So just move. Just be a bulldozer. Just push away and go through. Well, that was one. The second issue was what they call the disruption of government. The deep state, getting rid of people who could be a stumbling block to the Trump agenda. And this one is beginning to work itself out. They're stupidly offering to people, about 2 million civil servants right throughout the federal government, an opportunity to just resign, and they will be paid a certain sum for a certain period of time. What stupidity. So when all these people who, and of course it is clear that the intention is to push them out so that they can move in their own acolytes to do the things that they want to do. They don't want anything at all to stand in the way of their agenda. So they want to move in the people who will work with them to accomplish what they want, and in the quickest time possible, because like I said before, they don't have a lot of time. What will talking about efficiency in government? You think I want people understand the kind of bureaucracy that the federal government is. Certainly they don't. It's hard to wrap your mind around the kind of bureaucracy that runs America in that civil service, and to think that you can just move out 2 million people and you don't have chaos. When you put in new people who don't understand, who have to learn on the job, who have to understand or to work their way through, it doesn't make sense. Things aren't done like that. You don't just come with a sledgehammer to a workforce like that. You do things in a measured way. And if you're going to do it in a gradual and measured way so that you don't cause disruptions and chaos in governance, it's going to take time. But again, as I said, time is not what they have because they want to deconstruct, according to one of their better disciples over there. They want to deconstruct government and to construct their own sense of what it ought to be. And they're in a hurry. And every single agency of government has been placed under that watch by the Trump administration to disrupt, to deconstruct, and to make things conform to their image of what the country ought to be. That is not democracy. And I can tell you that that is not what most people voted for. As a matter of fact, many people who voted, they saw these things and then they because this is Project 2025 working itself out. How many people paid attention to that? They griped more about the food, the inflation, high cost of eggs and flour and bread and milk and all those things, the gas at the pump. And they thought that Trump now would be a savior who would come and at day one, as he promised, push the prices down. He's very silent on that because he has admitted that it is not that easy to just drop the prices. Why is he not working on the people's agenda? The real things that put him there. Why they put him there? No, those are not the things he's interested in. They want to disembowel government and to create it into an image of their own MAGA dispensation. So that's what is happening there. And that is why he's putting in each of these agencies, the CIA and the FBI and the DNI, the National Intelligence Apparatus, the Pentagon, the military, is making sure that he's putting people in those areas that will be very loyal to him, not loyal to the Constitution, not loyal to the people who pay their salaries, to their employers, but loyal to Trump himself as the ultimate emperor. That is what is happening there. And let me tell you something, friends, as I prophesied again, if I may use that word, I don't like to be referring to myself too much in this because, a lot of this thing is so disheartening. They're just getting started. And when those other secretaries have been confirmed, if the persons that are presently contending, like RFK and Gabbard and Patel, some have gone, at least Hexet has gone through already. And, I'm just talking about those of that particular ilk that people have had real serious concerns about. That when they get confirmed and they get started, you think you're hearing chaos now? You think you're hearing hard things now? You think your fear level on your fear gauge is low yet? You're gonna see it spike. Because when they start, we'll soon be seeing the unraveling of things in the Pentagon. as they carry out the destruction of what they call DEI policies and firing people and putting in the people who will do what they want. And not to mention at the FBI and the policy of retribution, going after what they perceive as the enemies of the people, breaking up the deep state, whatever that is. We're going to see that on steroids. You'd want to wish the administration well, but it cannot be well if they're going to be pursuing policies of retribution and revenge. It cannot be well if you're going to carry out immigration policies that drive fear in people and have at the very epicenter of it cruelty to people. Like is happening now, the fear, the palpable fear that is across the country, where people are just being rounded up. There has to be a more humane way to do things other than the kind of horrendous fear and intimidation tactics that they're using. And wanting to make sure that they're paraded. So you see them in the in different areas, and they make sure they have on the uniform and so on, and that people can see them at work and they know that, hey, we are on this as we promised. And again, the media is feeding that kind of thing. They're out there to publish what the fear that they and the intimidation that they are creating in people. And the media just laps it up, you know. I'm not saying that you can't just take a picture and move on, but why do you linger on giving aid and succor to that sort of thing? I don't understand it. I would want to wish them all that is best. But I realize that all that is best cannot be done or achieved when you're just firing people who have been in their jobs for over 20 years and even more, who have their families to take care of and their financial obligations to deal with, and to be sitting down on pins and needles right now because they don't know if they'll have a job tomorrow. That cannot be a situation that creates any sense of well-being in any society. And we're going to pay the price for it. We're going down a bad trajectory. And it's not going to end well for this country. I see my time is running out, so I just want to advise 3 things as the citizens face these and other horrific things to come. And bear in mind, it is not just the so-called Democrats or liberals who are going to be feeling what is taking place. Like we notice in the freezing of the food programs and all of these grants and aids to these NGOs, non-governmental organizations. A whole lot of people, MAGA people, for lack of a better term, scattered throughout the country, suffer from it too. So when these things begin to bite, it's not just a few people who will be bitten, it's a whole lot. So let me urge 3 things. The first thing, don't get bogged down by what I describe as a friend-enemy dichotomy. One of the worst aspects of the presidential elections was this kind of devilish, diabolical notion that if you disagree with me, you're my enemy. And so you have this division, what I call a division between friend enemy. If you're not my friend, you're my enemy. It is quite cut straight down the middle. And you and I need to be very careful of that kind of notion that if somebody disagrees with you, then he or she is your enemy. I don't know where we got off thinking that the person who opposes the other person in a political contest becomes an enemy. How is that so? The things that both of you are going after don't really belong to you. The government doesn't belong to you. The coffers don't belong to you. But perhaps you think it does. So you have to, paint the other person in a very bad light and brutalize him in order to get your way. I would like to urge the citizens of this country to be careful that they are not driven into this dichotomy where they see this dichotomy of friend enemy. Treat all people, well, the second thing that I'd like to urge is that treat everybody fairly. It's not all about you. People are very fearful. As you move around, as a minister, you move around, you see it, you feel it. The immigrants scared. People are really scared about what's going to be happening when they see the police and coming in the communities and behaving the way they are behaving. Some with decorum, others not so much so. Treat each other fairly as you would want to be treated yourself. And then thirdly, do not fear. The last thing that you could ever do is to fear. When people want to shut you up, speak your mind. We still have laws in this country. You still have your rights. Even those immigrants that are being rounded up, you have the law that you can appeal to take care of your condition and your situation. So you don't have to go around in fear. The worst thing to fear, as Roosevelt, FDR reminded us, is fear itself. And there's no need to fear. Because when you see the bully tactics of the bullies and you cave in because of fear, then that is when they really get to do what they want to do. And that's why I cannot understand the Republicans in the legislature, the extent to which they're ceding their own power to the executive under Trump. There's a kind of fear there. And not just fear, but a kind of, easy go along with what is taking place, no pushback. Even when you listen to the interviews, the congressional interviews of these candidates, you can see the division. Even questions that need to be asked and answered by these candidates. People are fearful to even ask these questions. Is it that they are in lockstep with what is taking place? And if that is the case, they're doing the people who voted them in office a disservice. And they should not be in there. They should be darned ashamed of themselves if they're going to just kowtow to everything that they know deep down in their hearts can bring a great deal of harm to the people of this country. And yet they don't push back, they don't ask the right questions, and they vote these people into office, and then they may end up with a whole lot of chaos and mayhem. It's not going to work. So be careful of the friend-enemy dichotomy. Treat others fairly. And thirdly, speak your mind. Stand on your own rights. You have them. All right. And so with that, then I'm gonna end off this evening and ask you, when you see this presentation, to not just to listen to it yourself, but that you can do a like for it, and more importantly, send it to somebody else if you think it has been helpful to you in the way I've tried to distill the issues, that I did this evening. Just send it on to somebody else, and hopefully they can send it to another person. That's how we keep the thing going. All right, so let me then, from Mango Tree Dialogues, and by the way, the mango tree is blossoming, That's only showing you some pictures that you see in the background there, with the blossom when it's bigger. We have not had any kind of freeze to have destroyed the blossoms, thank God, so far. All right, but let me wish you all the very best, and whatever you do with vigor. Do all in your own, in the strength that you can summon up, the deep inner strength that you can summon up to make yourself a better person. Whatever you do, well, good. All right, so good night, and we'll be here again soon with another presentation. Take care. Bye-bye.